My name is Anna Zilberberg. I'm a director of the Language Assessment and Instructional Research Unit at the Center for Applied Linguistics. And in this role, I get to work closely with test developers, psychometricians, customer support specialists, and others to develop and implement the basic English skills test family of assessments and make sure that they yield reliable and valid test scores, and ultimately that they meet the needs of adult ed programs across the nation. And with me today is Amaya McCoy. I'll let Amaya introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Amaya. I am the client relations specialist on the Best Client Relations team. I deal with most things front-facing with our customers, processing orders, assistance with the CalTest platform, things like that. And we're very excited to present our new product for you guys today.
Thanks, Amaya. And we also have Matilda, who is helping us out as a buddy today. Thanks, Matilda. All right. I want to tell you just a little bit more about the Center for Applied Linguistics, or CAL as we refer to it. So CAL is not based in California, some people think. It is based in Washington, D.C. It was founded in 1959 as a nonprofit, nonpartisan, independent research organization with the mission for promoting access, equity, and mutual understanding for linguistically and culturally diverse people around the world. So we all work together to advance this mission. We are not a big testing organization. We operate on a thin financial margin, but we are a small but dedicated group of folks who really are truly dedicated to this mission. Back when CAL was created, the purpose of the organization, which remains to be the purpose today, was to create a bridge between the academic world of theoretical linguistics and second language acquisition and teaching English to speakers of other languages, and the actual practical world of language education and adult education in general. So that's us and our mission. And I would love to find out more about you all. And in order to do that, let me get a clicker here. We have a Mentimeter, Paul, that I would like to ask for you to please scan with your phone or enter in the URL into your browser, whichever is easier for you. And for folks on Zoom, you should receive a link in the chat along with the access code. And please make sure to participate. We'd love to know who is on Zoom as well. Hmm. Okay. Are folks still responding to the Mentimeter survey, or is everyone done? Need a couple more minutes? Right, so this first map here, which COABE provided for us, it's a nice visual, and that gives us an idea of the geographical regions represented in the room today. So we have some Texas folks, somebody from South Carolina, a few folks from the Northeast here, and somebody either from Nevada or Oregon. Yeah. Hi, welcome. All right, great. Let's see. And the next question was, who is here? So what is your primary role? And we have 4 adult educators, 1 program director, 1 test user or administrator, and 4 other. I think they're the test publishers that are in the room. Just course publishers. I'm sorry, yep. Publishing company, yep. Any others? Yes. Yep. Hi, William. I'm sorry, I should remember to do that, and they just don't.
I'm a training administrator at Kawasaki Motors Manufacturing in Nebraska.
Okay, wonderful. Welcome. Okay. Will this work? It does. So the next question was, do you use English language oral proficiency assessments with your students? And 7 folks said yes. That's great. And 3 folks said no. And I wonder, out of the folks who said no, are you here because you're thinking about using an oral language proficiency assessment? Or is it because you're a publisher and you don't do that kind of thing? Okay, got it. Does anybody want to volunteer another reason? Any Zoomers want to chime in? Okay, fair enough. Let's see what our next question is. So then we wanted to know, what oral proficiency assessments do you use? Maybe Best Plus? And some people do, in fact, use Best Plus 2.0. That's great to see. This is the predecessor to the assessment that we will be talking about today. Best Literacy, which is not an oral proficiency assessment, but it is an assessment of English language proficiency, just a reading and writing test. And Informal Assessment. Great. So just using your teacher judgment, right, to figure out where students are. Great. Created. Is that a name of the test? Or is that something that, or did somebody just mean that you create something on your own? No? All right. Okay. Well, great. That's still quite a variety. Thank you so much for answering. It's good to know. I think that is the end of the Mentimeter. Let me just get back to the PowerPoint presentation. And thank you all so much for coming. It's a pleasure to have you all here. All right. So just in terms of the outline, after the introductions, we will share with you a bit of background and context that's underpinning the development and implementation of this test. Then I will give you an overview of the BEST assessment family, and then we'll dive right into the BEST Plus 3.0. So I'd like to ask my colleague Amaya to talk a bit about background and context.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for the clicker. All right, so first we're going to start with the background and context of the Best Assessments family. All right, to start, job and educational opportunities are beginning to require increasingly higher level skills, such as communication, problem-solving skills, and critical thinking. This presents unique challenges for adult English language learners, or ELLs as we refer to them, and this is why adult education programs play a crucial role in helping them develop these skills. But they still must also meet the requirements of the increased rigor in assessment, accountability, and instruction. And this increased rigor has been presented in the evolution of policies made over the past decade. So let's take a quick look at how this has developed. Since 2014, key policies have shaped ELL instruction. The Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, or WIOA, emphasize career and academic readiness. Since 2016, in 2016, the English Language Proficiency Standards, or ELP standards, for adult education were introduced. And moving on to 2017, the National Reporting System released their educational functioning levels, or EFLs, which defines 6 levels assessing interpretive, productive, and interactive skills. And these frameworks ensure that instruction and assessment align with real-world demands. Given policy shifts in the 2020s, test publishers like Cal had to develop assessments aligned with the new NRS EFLs. Let's take a look at how the NRS accountability system supports these changes. The NRS, or National Reporting System, is a federally mandated accountability system that is used to track learner progress and program effectiveness under WIOA. The NRS EFLs are used to measure skill gains on NRS-approved assessments. All federally funded programs must show measurable skill gains, or MSGs, with the NRS-approved assessments. And these assessments have been designed with adult learners, and only a handful of assessments received this approval. BEST was developed in the 80s and BEST was approved in the 80s. And let's take a quick look at BEST's history. BEST has been used to measure English proficiency over a long period of time and has evolved considerably. The original basic English skills test, or how we refer to it as BEST, was developed in the 80s. It then branched into BEST Plus in 2003, an assessment of listening and speaking, and then into BEST Literacy, an assessment of reading and writing, in 2006. Both were then redeveloped in 2016. In 2023, BEST Plus 3.0 and BEST Literacy 2.0 were introduced, designed with the new NRS EFLs, with cutting-edge assessment technology. They play a key role in program accountability today. Now let's take a look at the BEST family and their approval periods. The BEST Assessments family is comprised of BEST Literacy 2.0 and BEST Literacy 3.0 and are approved through June 30th, 2031. BEST Literacy and BEST Plus 2.0 are approved through June 30th, 2025. Oh, here they are. Jesus. The BEST Assessments family includes multiple tools designed to measure different aspects of English proficiency. This slide shows the approval period set for each exam by OCTAE. NRS approved periods are posted on their website and shared with stakeholders on a day-to-day basis. Let's see where we can find this information. Assessments must be approved by OCTAE for use in NRS reporting. The latest period extends BEST Literacy 2.0 and BEST Plus 3.0 through July 13th, 2030, while earlier versions are approved through June 30th, 2025. Knowing these periods is critical for compliance and ensuring programs use valid, up-to-date assessments. Next, I'm going to turn it back to Anna to discuss an overview of our BEST assessments.
Thank you, Amaya. Thanks. I assume this information was a review for most folks about the NRS approval periods and all of that. Okay. Just want to emphasize the fact that it's, as test publishers, we don't decide on when to develop and release a new version of assessment. It is really dictated from above. So when the new standards are released, that's when we get the charge to go ahead and develop new assessments. So it's not up to us essentially, but it is driven by the new, the release of the new standards. All right. Well, just wanted to share something else with you before I talk about the BEST Plus 3.0. I apologize if this is a repeat for folks who were here for BEST Literacy, but there are a few statistics that I recently came across with myself, and they made quite an effect on me personally. So I figured that it would be worthwhile to share it with you today. So in US, 6.7 million US workers, which is a 4% of the total labor force, have limited English proficiency. And that is according to the Labor Department. I believe that statistic came out in 2023. So what is limited English proficiency, or LEP? That term describes an individual whose primary language for communication is not English and who has a limited ability to read, speak, write, and or understand English. It's important to note that LEP individuals may be quite proficient in some domains of language, such as reading or writing, for example, but be less proficient in listening and speaking and still be classified as LEP. Recent OSHA reports said that the language barriers contributed to 25% of job-related accidents. So that's quite a staggering statistic, and it really resonated with me. I mean, every fourth job-related accident had something to do with the language barrier. So and the fatal injury rates were 69% higher for foreign-born Hispanic workers than they are for American-born Hispanic workers whose English skills tend to be better than those of the foreign-born workers. So that just goes to show you that language education is so important, not just for communication, not just for thriving in the society, but as a basic safety measure in the workplace. Workers with limited English may struggle to understand safety instructions and training, communicate hazards or concerns, and respond effectively in emergencies. So I came across this statistic when I participated in the language advocacy days on the Capitol Hill, which was a very interesting experience. And that's the statistic that we used with staffers on the Hill to convince them to keep supporting language education, foreign languages as well as English language, in US. So, and when I'm here at COABE, I just want to extend my gratitude to you all for doing the important work that you are doing every day in adult education. I just hope that at the Center for Applied Linguistics, our work in test development adds 2 cents to the important work that you're all doing, and that the tests that we end up offering to you really complement your work and support the important work that you are doing every day. Okay. Now to Best Plus. I'm sorry if I took too long with the introduction. So what is Best Plus? It assesses listening and speaking performance of adult English language learners. It is a computer adaptive, a multi-stage computer adaptive test that is also available as a print-based administration. There are 2 parallel forms of Best Plus 3.0 available. It is a face-to-face oral interview that takes between 5 to 30 minutes. It is compatible with remote administration, so meaning you can use it via Zoom, Teams, or whatever other medium is convenient for you. It is scored live by a trained test administrator according to a scoring rubric. We will talk about the scoring rubric in more detail just a bit later. The online interface for score reports and data management is available for Best Plus. We have conducted several reliability and validity studies to show as evidence for the test score's validity. And it provides a score report with a scale score, corresponding NRS EFL levels, and some administrative information. We will unpack all of this, but sometimes a picture is just worth 1,000 words. And when it comes down to it, this is what Best Plus 3.0 administration actually looks like. So the lady you see here, she serves the role of a test administrator, and the gentleman over here, he is the examinee. So basically, this is how the test is administered. 2 people sitting not quite across from each other. You see the different sides of the table, but they see each other clearly. The test administrator has a computer in front of her and the rubric. That's very important to note. You see she has the same laminated rubric available to her at all times. For most of the test administration, the examinee is not using a computer at all. So it's important to note that no computer skills are required on the student for the student to for the test taking experience. It's just the test administrator that's using a computer. An exception to that if she shows a picture and she's using a computer, so she will just turn the screen to show the picture or just show it on a piece of paper if it's a paper-based administration. All right. So I decided to be a little bit playful with with my slide here today. Get a little bit bored talking about the multi-stage computer adaptive test, which is what BEST Plus 3.0 is. But computer adaptive test, the abbreviation is CAT. And in a lot of ways, this assessment is like a CAT because it is adaptive, flexible, quick, and nimble. So it is adaptive in the sense that it actually adapts to the examinee proficiency level. So every examinee will have a slightly different testing experience. It may take 5 minutes for some examinees of lower proficiency levels and up to about 30 minutes for really higher proficiency level examinees who tend to produce a lot of language. It is nimble and flexible in the sense that an examinee is never really neither bored nor over challenged by the test because it adapts to their ability level. So it feels natural. It feels more like a conversation than a testing experience. The test is designed in a way that it's not too long, it's not too short because it's different for every examinee. It doesn't feel oppressive to the examinee or the test administrator either. All right. Now back to the official definitions of what we are talking about. So you don't think that I made that up with the cat on the previous screen. The International Test Commission defines computer adaptive test as a form of automated testing where the test taker receives successive items or sets of items which are selected in relation to the test taker's responses to previous items in consideration of psychometric and content information. The multi-stage test is a form of the computer adaptive test wherein sets of items are delivered to the test taker on the basis of the person's preceding responses to a set of items. The underpinning mathematical model is called item response theory, or IRT, and that's what enables this automated scoring and the adaptive feature of the test. The multi-stage component of it, I think, is really works quite well for this testing scenarios because examinee is not seeing, the questions are not changing after each question, they're changing in sets. So that allows for that conversational flow to stay intact. So for example, if we are talking about houses, we're going to keep talking about houses for the next 3 to 4 items without it switching to the next level. Does that make sense? So that's the multi-stage feature of it. This is what's happening under the hood. So it's a visual of that mathematical model that's taking place while the test is being administered. So to be clear, this is not something that test administrators or, of course, test examinees need to worry about ever. But this is just like a visual of what's happening on the back end. So somebody starts with between level 1 and level 2. They're administered 4 tasks. So in the paper-based version, that's the equivalent of a locator. But in the computer-based version, the test just starts. And the conversation just starts with those 4 tasks. And then depending on how an examinee does on those tasks, the test either goes a little bit to the higher level or to the lower level. And again, all of that is happening behind the scenes. All that the test administrator has to do is to live score the responses using the rubric. So on it goes. In this simulated scenario, the examinee is doing quite well and moving up in the test. So by now they're at level 3 difficulty, already at NRS levels 3 to 4. And then maybe they didn't perform as well in those 3 tasks and the test goes down a level. Then they go back up, then they stay the same, they go up again. And for illustration purposes, they will get to part B, which is not visible because my camera is here. Here we go. So I think most students who are LEP will stay in these levels 1 through 4. But on occasion, if you have a very high proficiency student, they may get to part B, which measures NRS levels 5 through 6. So those are really higher level items that not all examinees will see, and that's by design. But for those who will see them, the adaptive feature kind of stops at that. So it's an intact, part B is an intact form. So if somebody gets to part B, they will see the entire part B, in other words. Let me pause here, see if you have any questions. Check the time. Any questions from Zoomers? Okay. Yeah. Each task is a question, yes. Yes, yes, it definitely, there are stopping rules. So for examinees who can clearly do not understand the question, after they receive 2 zeros in a row, the test just terminates itself. Yes, it's a good question. Thanks, I forgot about that. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Yes, it is different in that regard. Yep. And that's the multi-stage feature of it kind of should take care of it. Yep. It will go on longer for students who can speak and listen better, and it will be much shorter for students who are not quite there. So it will not be boring or just overbearing for them. Right? Anything else? Oh, I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sorry. I think my program tested it one time for 2.0 and it went for like 19, 20 questions with zeros and it was still going.
Even with zeros, it continued on going. Okay. So it kept going, the previous version, even if person kept getting zeros. I'm sorry, that has been the experience. And I assure you that on Best Plus 3.0, 2, maybe 3 consecutive zeros, but not more than that. And the test will terminate itself. Why am I stuck? Oh, I have to click on the PowerPoint. Thank you. Okay. This is the score report that a test administrator will see immediately after the test is completed. So there's no need to wait for Cal to analyze responses or anything like that. The test score appears on the screen right away. It provides the scaled score, which is 747 in this example, and the corresponding NRS EFL level, which in this example corresponds to level 4, and the name of the examinee and the test administrator and how the test was administered. Yes, hold on.
Will we be able to print out the score reports?
Yes. I'm trying to remember if there's a print score report option, and I can't right now. But if there isn't one option, you can definitely take a screenshot and print it out. Yeah, you can do it from the web portal. So the scores will sync up to the web portal. And then from there, you can print out score reports and you can export. So, yep. In case you need to load it into the data management system or someplace.
When you say web portal, so it won't be stuck on one computer anymore. If there's like 6 administrations on one test and 5 on another, that doesn't matter anymore. It all syncs.
Yes, that's the idea. I know that there are some syncing issues that have been reported. It takes a couple of days for sync up to complete. And we're working on resolving that issue. But yes, the web-based portal will have all the test scores in there. So they're not going to be stored on any single device, but available on the cloud. Great question. Thank you. Anybody else? Anything from the Zoomers? Okay. Key features. There are some key features to Best Plus 3.0 that were not there before. The test design, we talked about that. The new Part B task types, so that was not in the previous version. Updated and modernized Part A tasks and content. So all of the test items have been developed fresh. Multiple forms for pre and post testing. There are 2 forms available currently, and there will always be 2 forms available, just that we will rotate them, the current ones out, and we will introduce new ones after a period of time. There are embedded field testing, not that you really care about that, but there are, we will include test items on the operational forms that are being field tested, meaning that they're not counted towards the total test score, but we are collecting data on them for potential inclusion on future test forms. Administration, computer-based and print-based available, in-person and virtual testing available. And the score compatibility across forms and administration modes. So we have conducted several studies that show score compatibility across paper-based and fully computerized versions. So either one that you use, they are comparable. With one caveat, though, that the print-based version only measures NRS levels 1 through 4. So the advanced levels, Part B tasks, are not available on the print-based version. And that is because the audio is required there. Can't do that on paper. We're going to get to see an example of what Part B test item looks like, and you will see right away that it's just impossible to include it on paper. And administration mode. So whether you do it in person or virtually, it should still work the same, and the scores should be comparable. Scoring and reporting, there's a new rubric category that aligns with the Part B items, and that is meaning development. Updated rater training materials, there are brand new videos, and the scores are aligned with the new NRS EFL reporting levels. There's a new user-friendly, especially if you compare to the old one, app for test administration and cloud-based web portal for ease of data management. So that's what we just talked about. Yes, hold on.
Sorry, I can't get my mind straight. Is this 3.0, can we use it on Mac or only on PC? Because previously you could only use it on PC.
That is another very good question. So currently it is only available on PC. We are working on developing the Mac version. So within the next year or year and a half, it will become available, but it's not currently.
So are you saying that the current scoring categories are going to stay the same, but you're just adding an additional one?
Yes. There are scoring categories that stay the same as they were for the previous version of the test. The new category is only introduced for those Part B items that measure NRS levels 5 through 6. That is the only time when you will use that rubric category of meaning development, in addition to the other three.
Are you looking into AI for scoring?
Not currently, no. It's all human scored. But we are looking into training our humans really, really well. Anything else? Okay. I lost my clicker. Standards alignment. So I think we touched upon that. The computer adaptive version, parts A and B together measure proficiency levels 1 through 6. So across the board. And the print-based version only contains part A, only measures proficiency levels 1 through 4. Test development and validation. I'm not going to bore you too much with the whole history that went into it, but take my word for it. The process started a long time ago in 2019, really before that, with the planning and preparation. And there were several steps along the way with collecting data, making sure that the test functions as it should, involving adult educators and LEP students all along the way for field testing and construct validation studies. User-friendly interface. This is basically what the test looks like. The app is available free of charge right now on the Cal website. Anybody is free to download it. Folks can download it on their personal computers if they like. No restrictions there. Oops. Sorry. It features a simplified layout. It is easy to use. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but there's nothing all that complicated in it. Even for folks who are just interested in it, but they're not certified test administrators yet, they can still download the app and use the practice version to see what the test is like. Task types. So part A includes picture description, yes, no questions, choice, example question, personal expansion, general expansion, and elaboration. I believe this is very similar to Best Plus 2.0, basically the same. Yep, okay. Part B has extended argumentation, audio-based summary, and opinion. Scoring rubric. I cannot overemphasize how important this document is. So it contains 4 categories. And again, the last category, meaning development, is new and only applicable to those Part B test items or tasks. That's the only time you will use it. But for the other items, listening comprehension. So how well did the examinee understand the setup and questions? Language complexity. How did the examinee organize and elaborate the response? Communication. How clearly did the examinee communicate meaning? All of those rubric categories remain. This piece of paper is salmon pink and laminated, and it comes with every test administration manual that every test administrator has to purchase before administering the test. And that is because it's a key thing to have for test administrators to be trained on and to use religiously, because that's how we ensure that the subjectivity is removed from the test scoring process to the extent possible, and that different test administrators are scoring the responses reliably and consistently and objectively. So not relying on their own intuition or on the knowledge of a student or even on their professional judgment, but relying on nothing but this rubric. We found that language complexity category that has 5 levels, that's the highest number of category levels on all of the scoring rubric. That's the one where folks tend to disagree on the most. So whether it's a 4 or a 3, or sometimes between 2 and 3, especially those categories in the middle that test administrators, even experienced test administrators, tend to disagree on quite a bit. So to mitigate this variability in scores, we also created the language complexity reference sheet, and it's right on the back of the scoring rubric. And it basically includes examples. And those examples are taken from field testing. So we did not make them up. They're from real people providing real responses. You will see the rubric description, the score, the example, and the notes. So explaining why a 4 is a 4 and the 3 is a 3, etc. The QR code that you see on the screen will take you directly to the copy of that scoring rubric that's available online free of charge. So just in case anybody loses it, they can always download a copy and use it. So it really is a must-have. Yes, hold on.
Do language teaching professionals in the field get any input on the final version of this test? Were they consulted about scoring or whether they felt it was easy to use or anything?
Yes, I believe during the rubric development, the adult educators were consulted and they were involved in the process. I mean, what would you like me to say? The names of people who worked on it, I can't cite them from my memory. Yeah, so we are working on the technical report right now for Best Plus 3.0, and all of that detail will be there. So who the committees consisted of, I don't think we're going to put actual names of people in there, but we are going to talk about, what regions were represented, what students they worked with, et cetera, and how the process took place. So, we did involve educators at multiple touch points during the process. It did take several years, so different folks were involved. And I understand that people who will be using the assessment in the future may not be involved in the process. The front line. I think both.
I can speak to that a little bit. 2 of my colleagues were involved in piloting the new test in 2020, more or less. And I mean, just from talking to them after they got back from DC, they didn't tell me a lot, but there was one item where, let's see, the test taker asks a man, my husband fixes things for me at home. What about you? And he says, me too. And there was some disagreement about his understanding of the question. And my colleague argued that no, he may have a husband. Like this should be scored as a 2 for listening comprehension as opposed to a 1 for partial understanding. So just to give you a taste of like what their involvement was like from just chatting with them afterwards. And these are people who do go out and do testing at different sites in our region, I would say, the libraries and stuff, for example. Yeah.
Thank you so much, William. Appreciate it. I wasn't there in 2020, so I can't speak exactly about what took place, but yeah. I can tell you another thing is that we're going to be developing new test forms in the future, and we will be looking for adult educators and LEP students to participate in that process. So if you see a call for committee members, please participate. Depending on how many folks express interest, we may need to, do random selection of who gets to participate on the committee. But that is an integral part of the process involving educators and trying our best to make sure that there's fair representation across the nation. Anything else? Training. So I think folks do want to know about training. So in order to administer and score Best Plus 3.0, one does have to go through pretty rigorous training in order to do that. So it is required. It is currently available as a self-access, self-paced online training course that has been developed and offered by Cal. It's quite long. It takes between about 6 to 10 hours to complete, depending on how experienced the person is. So for somebody who is used to experiencing Best Plus 2.0, they'll zoom through it pretty quickly, although still around 3 hours should be budgeted for it. There are quizzes towards the end. There are 2 quizzes that one must complete, but there are unlimited attempts allowed. So the point is to not, rule the folks out of the process, but to make sure that test administrators are calibrated and can use the rubric consistently. It's important to complete the course in its entirety. There is a survey form at the very end that is really essential for folks to complete, because that survey form tells us, okay, this person completed the course, they got their digital badge, and then they are uploaded in the CalTest platform, and then after a day or two, they appear on the list of certified test administrators. So that means after the tests are purchased, that person can then actually administer the test. The course is available free of charge until the end of April. Then it will remain available, but for a fee of $125. We're also going to reintroduce the workshops. So some of you who are experienced Best Plus 2.0 users may be familiar with those. Virtual workshops organized by Cal as another option to obtain test administrator badge for folks who prefer that interaction with the experienced test administrator and has the ability to answer questions. So we are going to reintroduce them. There are also local workshops that some states have. I know New York and Texas are definitely among those states. If you're interested in becoming a master trainer, so a master trainer is somebody who trains others locally on how to become test administrator, please talk to me separately. We have a process in place. And we are working hard on making sure that folks are trained properly and can start administering the test basically as soon as they're ready to go. Yes, hold on.
So currently for Best Plus 2.0, there's a recertification that we have to do every fiscal year. Will it be the same with 3.0? Because at the end of, when you receive your badge at the end, it says lifetime something or other. So is there, I'm just not sure if there's what that means. So.
That is a very good question. Thank you. If you're looking to get recertified on Best Plus 2.0, don't. It's expiring in the summer. There's just no reason. Yes, Best Plus 3.0 Test Administrator badge is for life. You don't have to get recertified. Eventually, we will release the calibration activity, the, what are they called? Score. Yeah. A refresher. That's the word I was blanking on. Yes, refresher. But we're not going to mandate it. Highly encourage because it helps. But we decided not to mandate it of test administrators.
I will add that that's something we found is on a state to state basis. Like New York requires yearly recertification. But like Anna said, that's not something that we mandate. So if you do have questions about that, we advise to reach out to your state.
That is a very good point. There are state assessment policies. Please refer to them. I have no idea what they are. They will likely vary.
I don't want to get ahead of you. Are you going to talk about how to show score gains between the two tests if one is being sunset? Or can you just not do that?
I can answer that question. You cannot do that. I'm sorry, I don't think that's part of the point. No, you cannot pre-test with one version and post-test with another version. That's not allowed because they're technically considered different tests. They're like apples and oranges. So if you pre-test with Best Plus 2.0, you have to post-test with Best Plus 2.0. Not after June 30th. So after June 30th, 2025, if you need to use the test to show gains for NRS accountability purposes, you have to pre-test with Best Plus 3.0 and post-test with Best Plus 3.0. You have to use the same version of the test for pre-test and post-test.
To add some context, they are aligned to two separate standards. So that's the reason why they're not compatible. Because if we're taking into consideration the increased rigor with 2017, the standards are just much higher than they were before. So that's the main reason why they're not compatible for pre-testing and post-testing.
Well, the scores have been reported, the MSG gains have been reported. So I would just encourage you to make sure that you post-test folks who have been pre-tested with Best Plus 2.0 while it's still on. You correct. If you pre-tested it such a long time ago, you could not post-test with Best Plus 3.0. You have to set a new baseline, like you said. Yes. I'm sorry. So Mara just said it's not because of the test, it's because of the standards that have changed. And that is correct. They have changed the standards, so now we got to measure up to those standards. And, OCTAI, the Office of Korean Technical Education, who have approved the test, that was one of the requirements that they had. Anything else? I want to show you some items, but before we go into that, came to my mind is that there's also a new recommendation for when to post-test after the pre-test has been administered. So now we recommend 40 hours of instruction instead of 60 as before. So again, consult your state assessment policy, what they recommend. But as far as we are as a test publisher, we now suggest at least 40 hours of instruction between pre-test and post-test. I think that's equivalent to one semester. Okay. So I want to show you some items. All right, so this is one of the lower level items. Tell me about this picture. And mind you, this is what a test administrator would see on their computer. Basically, the simple text, and then the scoring rubric categories. And as you can see that there are 3 for this early item: listening comprehension, language complexity, and communication. So tell me about this picture. The examinee would tell about this picture. Computer would be turned to show the picture. And the test administrator scores the response live. The next question is, what are some ways to get the news? The response again is scored live. That's again one of their earlier items. Then do you think it's important to keep up with the news? Why and why not? This is I believe that's definitely a higher level. I think that's an elaboration question, but that is still part A. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry, I didn't read the whole thing. So this is going into part B already. So this is the section that probably you are not familiar with if you're familiar with the predecessor test. For part B, that's the prompt that they see first. So the test administrator says to an examinee, when people want to get the news, they have many options, and sometimes different news sources provide conflicting information. One question is, who is responsible for making sure that the news people consume is accurate? People have different opinions about who should be responsible, and I'm very interested in what you think. But first, I want you to listen to Sam express his opinion on this topic. So you see, this prompt already is a lot to understand. And then next, what the test administrator does is plays an audio for the student. All right, it worked for me earlier.
People need to be smart about the news they consume and think critically about what they're hearing. They should get their news from multiple sources, and if they hear conflicting facts, then they should take the time to do some research to figure out what's true. News providers are like any other type of business and want to maximize profits, so individuals need to be aware of those motivations and consume news in a way that's smart. If enough people do this, then unreliable news sources will eventually go out of business because fewer people will watch or read them.
So it was a little quiet, but it was a couple of minutes of Sam talking and providing a point of view on the news sources. So the pace cannot be changed. An examinee can only listen to it once. They're not allowed to take notes, which is what I wanted to do the first time I heard this. But it's really measuring listening comprehension. So that's why notes are not allowed. And after that, after they hear this audio bit, after they hear this audio bit, they're asked to summarize what Sam said. And that is all oftentimes a tricky task for an LEP student to do, even at a higher level, because they have to like summarize what somebody else says instead of providing their own point of view on the topic. So it's, if they understood the directions, if they understood what Sam said, the next part for them to summarize what they said. And then they're scored using all 4 categories here. And you see the extra rubric category appears, meaning development. This isn't it. Then they have to hear Lisa's argument. Sorry about that. I don't know why it doesn't want to work for me.
We live in a fast-paced world where people have lots of responsibilities, and it's not realistic that people are going to do their own fact-checking of the news. It's not realistic, and it's not a good use of time. There are people who are trained in journalism and are experts who should be in charge of this task. Ultimately, if people are not informed, then it's the fault of the news sources. Individuals can't be the ones to blame. News organizations need to hold themselves to a higher standard.
So as you can see, Lisa here presented another point of view on this topic, and the examinee again is asked to summarize Lisa's argument. And only after that do they get to talk about what they think. Now tell me your opinion. Who's responsible for making sure the news are, sorry, who's responsible for making sure that the news people consume is accurate? Then there are optional follow-ups allowed. Can you tell me more about that, or tell me more details about that? And again, you see all 4 scoring rubric categories appear. So it's quite complex. I think you will all agree. And that is part B. Okay. Happy to take any questions. Yes. I don't mind watching.
I don't know if you can speak to this about what the process will be for activating more administrations, and how can you say something about that now? There's like you have to get a registration key, and there's like a whole process for first purchasing more tests for your organization, and then at the moment, of course, we have to download them onto different computers. Can you say anything if the process will be something similar or different with 3.0?
It will be much simpler, but I think Amaya can speak to that way better than I can.
Thank you. So the activation process is now like a one-step process. Once you enter the CalTest platform, there's a little square that says Manage Administrations, and it'll take you to a screen that shows the amount that you have on your computer and the amount that in your program account. And all you have to do is just write down the amount that you want and click Enter. And the process for putting them back into your account to share them amongst your program has also been heavily simplified, because there will be a separate box that says return to bank. So you can choose how many you want to return to your program's account, and that can then be activated by other computers and other teachers.
Can you talk a little bit about the single username and password that they have to use?
Yeah, so once a program account is set up, there's login information that is shared with the entirety of the program. So all of your test administrators will have the same username and password when logging into the CalTest platform as well as the web portal. Amongst you being registered for the account, we do send a email from no reply at cal.org to the program contact, is how we refer to them, so that they can then set up the account. And once test administrators are trained, when we send them their email saying, congratulations, you've completed the course, we then refer them back to their program contact so that they can get that information. And the program contact can always reach out to Cal to reset the password, or they can reset it directly on the web portal.
Is the password generated by you, or our program chooses the password? Okay. Just not Mexico, right?
What about on that first email? Is there for the first time they get? No.
The first email just provides a link to set up your password.
Right. And that program administrator is told, please share the password with all the teachers or test administrators who will need to use it, so that we don't have it. The one person assigned to your program has it.
I would like to add that each computer has something called a unique computer ID, and this makes it identifiable when you're pulling reports from the program, from the web portal. So once you're logged into the web portal, you can see every computer that's aligned with your program. And from there, you'll be able to get the reports, print them like we mentioned. And using that unique computer ID, you'll be able to see what teacher did it on what computer and at what time.
Good point.
I had a question about the 6 hour in person, or well, I guess 6 hour. So I train teachers to administer the best lesson. With the 2.0, once they just complete the training and the activities they're in, then like they're good to go. Whereas with the refresher, they have to complete an evaluation at the end to show that they've passed it. And I was curious, with the 3.0 in the initial training, is there like a set evaluation that they have to pass or not? Or if you know, I guess.
There are 2 calibration quizzes. So does that answer your question? I don't know if that's an evaluation per se, but there are 2 quizzes. Yeah. Basically on how you use the rubric and whether it's consistent. Mm-hmm. Anything else? No? Well, thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciated your questions. I hope you use Bus Plus 3.0, and if you have any further questions, you know where to find us. You have the flyer, and look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you. Share the